Oma Gyanati Virandasi, Gyanam Janam Shanapai, Shakshuru Militam Yadatasmi Shikravaya, Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Testaya Bhutali, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamini, Namaste Sarasvati Devi Golavani Pracharini, Nilveshe Shasunyavadi Prachachari Shatani.
It is a very important verse from Bhagavad Gita which explains our condition as conditioned soul. The soul is eternal. The soul never took birth, cannot die, cannot be cut, dried, wet, burned. It is antimatter. But since the soul desires in some certain way to equal the Lord, to be the one that controls things, that creates, that maintains and destroys, the Vedas explain that this Lord creates material universes in order to fulfill the desires of living beings. So right now, we are in this situation. We think, whether it is small or big, we take ourselves to be controllers. The proof is, even if the absolute truth can address itself to us, and then we say, oh, you're very kind, maybe I'm a spirit soul, but now I have something important to do right now. I have my role also, and I'm attached to it. But if we look, how long will this last? For example, people create a family and then divorce. Everything lasts just a moment. And the same way, this life will last only a moment, just a flash. We will, since we feel inside of us, when we were 5 years old, or 50 years old, or 40 years old, we're always the same person. We feel that we will never die. We feel we are eternal. Nobody wants to die. Everyone wants to be eternal. Nobody wants to suffer. So deep within us, and naturally, this reality that expresses itself, but through coverings. Because in order for the forgetfulness of our reality becomes efficient, then there needs to be ignorance. The ignorance are the material coverings. The soul receives different coverings, a gross and subtle body. So there are different coverings. We will not explain everything, but from there, it is just like glasses. When you put blue glasses, then you see everything in blue. If you put red, then you see everything in red. And you have a vision, a false vision of existence. But you just need to remove the glasses to see the reality. But as long as you have these glasses, then this consciousness is everything you perceive through this consciousness. And this consciousness comes by the association with the material energy, the three modes of nature: ignorance, passion, and virtue, and goodness. According to our past lives, we have an influence which is personal and which will make us see things in a certain way. This is why you can put an object in a room with 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Everyone will have his own vision of that object and his understanding. Why? Because this influence is just like a pair of glasses that will make us see things in a certain way. Right now, this is our consciousness. So if in our previous lives we didn't do any pious activities, then we will not be able to wake up to the nature of the soul. This is why, although we are the soul, even if people will hear about the soul, they will think we are crazy. You understand? But the one who is in his previous life made pious activities, then he will be more receptive. Then he will employ his life to awake his true identity and to liberate himself from this material consciousness. This is the spiritual path, liberation. When we become liberated,
libéré des trois influences
we
matérielles.
become liberated from the influence of the modes of nature. Although we have this body that covers us, we can see ourselves as the soul. You understand? With a covering, but this covering does not have any influence on us anymore. In the same way, these coverings, on the subtle level, we have impressions of angry, of envy, of jealousy. And when we are conditioned, when anger manifests, we think we are this anger. People will kill other people. People cheat other people, but the soul is pure. The soul is completely pure. The soul will never cheat someone, will never kill someone. But it is only these coverings that in some way influence our life. All these impressions, the subtle body which is made of mind, intelligence and false ego, it is explained. They are just like a magnetic band that registers all the impressions. And through these impressions, we develop fears because we had experiences before, etc., etc. And all this is just like a dream. You know, in a dream, you have a life also in a dream. It is explained we have two lives. A life with the subtle body, where we can get out of this gross body, do astral projections, and also a life with the gross body. And these two lives, one stops every evening, and then one stops with the death. It's just a bit longer, but these dreams, they're still, they pass one and the other, but it's just still a dream. This is why pious activities that we do in our previous lives, they allow us to realize that material life is just temporary. Everything will disappear. And that in reality, the attachment is just a source of suffering. This is why a spiritualist simply, he cultivates his relationship with the eternity, with the Lord. He's longing to re-establish this connection, no matter how we call him. What is our spiritual practice? Someone who is intelligent will appreciate, because he understands that there's something that can help him. And when this being becomes full, then he can understand his relationship and his eternal place in the kingdom of God. This is the true liberation. Before, it was simply that just a path. Bahunam Janmanamante. The Vedas explain that the Lord, once we start to turn towards Him, at the beginning, He just looks at us. He's the one who gives the fruits of our activities. He allows the children to do whatever they want in this world. He gives the elements through the earth, water, ether, air, but He does not enter. He gives us the elements by which we can build, by which we can maintain. So this world, it is us, we created it. At one point, naturally, we will be able to ask ourselves a question. The animal, he lives by instinct, but the one who in his previous lives did pious activities can ask himself the proper questions. What do I do here? It doesn't make sense. I try to love people who are imperfect. I only suffer. The more I love, the more I attach myself, the more it's difficult. I'm jealous. I'm envious. I'm angry. I have money, but I'm not happy. What does this mean? Why? So these questions, they are essential, because when we ask ourselves questions, the next stage is will be a search. If we do not ask ourselves any questions, we will stay with our own consciousness thinking this is life, and you turn around the pot, you do something, and you always come back to the same place, because that's what we call karma. Karma, according to our previous activities, we have qualities, we have defects, we're rich, we're poor. There's something that is already predestined. We turn around, we move around just like a circle. But spiritual life is different, because spiritual life means the soul, and the soul can escape karma. The soul can have an inner life that is inconceivable, where you can taste inner happiness that is inconceivable. This is the only way we can escape ourselves from this illusion. For example, we see some people, they say, no God, no master. I know a lot of people who think like that, whether it is they are bikers or this or that. But they are obliged to stop to the red light. They are obliged to declare their taxes. They are obliged to do so many things. So they're not masters. When sickness comes, they are forced to accept. When death comes, they're not liberated. Because we want to make people believe that we are free. We are not free. The only way to free ourselves is spiritual life, because spiritual life helps us to connect. And the external life is the one that conditions us. Because in this world, all the activities, they are based on 4 bases. Kill animals, eat them, distribute them, drink illicit sex, alcohol, and gaming. So all these activities, people do it. Because the Vedas explain that, for example, the meat, it takes away compassion. To have compassion for living beings, but not for all living beings. The proof is, we can feed ourselves simply without eating meat. It's not necessary. So, when we eat, we kill, we cultivate, we sell, we participate to this bad karma. So in this world, when you work, you're obliged to be engaged in things like that. Everyone drinks alcohol, everyone does negative things. So the association in this world is extremely difficult, because people have a consciousness that is simply based on the pleasure of the senses, exploitation. No matter what others are, what is important is my tongue. What is important is to gratify my genital organs. But when there is an inner life, we become master of the senses. And we can understand this subtlety. And we can also live in a very simple way. When we're a materialist person, then we lack a lot of things. I see, for example, people, they look TV, they speak to someone at the same time, they look at their mobile, they're lost. There's always a lack. We do something, but it never gives the satisfaction. The proof is, we abandon so many activities. But if it will be the best, then we will not have abandoned our material activities. If it will be perfect. Look at a child. They pass from one toy to the other. Because the adult has more intelligence to go to the end. But at the end, it is always a failure. Why? Because the soul cannot find satisfaction with matter. It's just like when you go to the desert, you think you'll find an oasis, but it's just a mirage. In the same way, material pleasure cannot satisfy us. So at one point, it's always the same thing. We always taste something that is so limited, so limited, so limited. But for this limited thing, we do so much bad for sexual life. Why do you think so many people are raped in this world? So many people are cheated. They cheat each other, lie for sex life. It is crazy what a person can do just to satisfy the genital organs and the tongue. It is really very destructive. So spiritual life is something that will allow us to enter inside of us and observe our reality. And when we observe our reality, we don't need so many things in this world. If people had a spiritual life, we would not find degradation like we see today. People completely unsatisfied, who destroy the Amazon forest, all this destruction, etc. We would have a life based on things that are extremely satisfying. Because the soul doesn't need so much. The soul only needs spiritual food. But this love, the soul needs love, but this love is not lust. The distinction between love and lust is that lust, we will love someone, but if this person doesn't give us pleasure, we don't love that person anymore. It's a proof that this relationship was based on lust, because it is based only on my own satisfaction, and also a satisfaction with the identification of this body. I am this false consciousness. So I need for this false consciousness of an environment where everything will exist for me. I want that everyone bows down to me. And if people don't bow down to me, then I reject them. I accept them less. They're not what I thought they were. True? So spiritual life will bring us to our true conception. And true conception is harmony. Harmony, what does it mean? It means that we'll find our place with God. The Lord is just like a gigantic machine. And in this machine, we have our place. So when we find our place, we are in harmony with everything. And in this harmony, what happens? We do not see the identification, our identification with matter, nor the identification of others with matter. We see the reality. We can see we have a relationship with the reality, and that we are all children of the same source. From there, what happens? You can see the soul, and the soul is found in the plant, in the bird, in the insect, everywhere. The soul moves everything. It is life. Where there is life, there is the soul. And where there is life, there's also the Lord that accompanies the soul. So from there, you can live in harmony. And this harmony becomes wonderful because you can make everyone benefit, have spiritual progress. You can help them to increase their consciousness. You are not the exploiter, the destroyer. I remember when I was a kid, I was stomping on ants, walking on ants. But what right do we have to take life? So of course, when we do not have consciousness, what does it represent? An ant. But when you have consciousness, we see where we walk on the floor. We feel life. We become a friend for all living beings. And this is something that comes gradually. We need to speak about it first. If we speak about it, that means we move. But that doesn't mean it will come in us perfectly. We will still do mistakes. Anger will take us again. Lust will take us again. But we will be able to understand that they are not us. And gradually, by this action and these thoughts and this meditation, we will be able to disassociate ourselves from it. And we'll be able to understand that our true interest is somewhere else. And we spend enough time in ignorance. Then we become truly
un être conscient,
a conscious being, serious in spiritual life,
fixé.
fixated.
C'est qu'à partir de là, on peut dire
So
que quelqu'un est
it's
un
only from there
spiritualiste.
that we can say that someone is a
Avant,
spiritualist.
c'est comme quelqu'un
Before, it's just like someone
dans deux éléments.
in two elements.
Parfois, il est
Sometimes
plus un matérialiste,
is more
parfois, il
materialist,
est plus un spiritualiste.
sometimes is more spiritualist.
Et malheureusement, si quelqu'un
And
a un
unfortunately, if
habit
someone has a religious
religieux et qu'il est
dress
situé dans ces deux choses,
and is
ça fait
situated in
beaucoup
these
mal
two
à la
things, then it hurts a
Les
lot.
gens,
They can hurt religion because
ils
people,
attendent d'un religieux quelqu'un
they wait from a religious man someone who is right, with
vous comprenez.
and who has qualities. You understand?
Pourquoi les gens
Why do
se
people
détournent?
they turn away
Parce
from
qu'ils
religion?
ont vu beaucoup de
Because
choses
they saw many things, wrong things in religion.
avec des habits
People
qui
with
devraient
dresses, religious dress,
supporter une personne.
who should
À partir de là,
support people. So people, they reject them from there.
on corrigeait hier le Srimad
We
Bhagavatam.
were correcting yesterday the Srimad Bhagavatam, the fourth canto.
Il y a une
And
histoire avec Indra.
there's a story with Indra.
Indra,
Indra
c'est le roi des planètes et des
is the king of the heavenly planets. So there are different planetary systems, it is explained,
certaines planètes
and
sont
certain
habitées
planets
par
are
des-
inhabited by demigods,
ce qu'on appelle les planètes du
what we
paradis.
call the heavenly
Quand les
planets.
gens pieux quittent leur corps, ils
When
vont sur
pious
cette
people
planète.
leave their body, they go to this planet.
Et donc,
And so,
c'est pas que tout est pur.
it is not that everything is
Bien
pure
sûr,
in the
les
heavenly
gens ne
planets.
sont pas soumis à
Still,
la souffrance
it's just that people are not subjected to great material suffering,
maladie, tout ça. Il y a un
like
bonheur
illness,
millions
like
de fois plus élevé que
there's a happiness that is millions of times more intense than here. There's sex pleasure, drinking. People are so beautiful, and their life is much longer also.
Et
And
il y avait un roi sur la
there was a king on
qui
earth
était
who was
mis en pouvoir par le Seigneur, le roi
empowered by the Lord, Prithu, the king
Et,
Prithu,
il désirait accomplir
and he desired to
100
accomplish
sacrifices du cheval.
100 horse
Et
sacrifices.
celui qui fait un
And it's
nombre de
explained,
sacrifices du cheval, il peut
the
avoir
one who does 100 horse sacrifice he can have in his next life,
le poste d'Indra,
because the
c'est pas
post of
toujours
Indra is not always, it's not always the same person. There are jivas, souls,
souvent les plus
who are most of the time the most pious,
c'est le poste de Brahma, mais une certaine piété.
which have a certain piety, and
Fait
when they
une quantité de piété
did enough piety,
élevée,
very elevated piety,
pouvoir
then they can
recevoir un tel poste.
receive such post as Indra.
Et quand Indra s'est vu menacé
And when
par ce
Indra
poste,
was threatened by his post,
volé, en fait,
he
le
stole
cheval du sacrifice
the
de
horse
Vous savez
in the
comment
sacrifice
Dieu
of
disait
Prithu,
en
and
ascète.
he was disguised as an ascetic.
Et là, les Védas expliquent
And the
que
Vedas
c'est là
explain
qu'est
that
apparue l'irreligiosité.
this is where irreligiosity came,
Et qu'aujourd'hui,
and where today a religion
en fait,
where people
mettent des habits religieux
they
sans
put
avoir
religious dress
toutes les qualités.
without having
On voit les
necessarily
histoires
the best, all the qualities. We see
de
stories
corps,
of
ceci et cela,
of
donc Dieu.
pedophile, of murder, of this and that.
Donc, quand
So,
des grandes personnalités comme ça
when great personalities like that,
se fourvoient, c'est ça,
they cheat themselves or they
automatiquement,
commit mistakes, automatically what happens?
et ben ça ouvre une brèche.
It opens a breach, and then people follow.
C'est pourquoi, pour
This is why wearing a religious dress is not so simple. Because when someone sees us, he thinks it's someone who is a cheater. So we say the dress doesn't make the monk. But in other ages, people truly had qualities when they were wearing the religious dress. So we must, through this faith, develop qualities so that people can still have faith in us. Trust, what does it mean? It's to want the good for living beings, and not simply to inculcate a belief that will just put them in sectarianism. The true faith is something that gives an experience, love, the connection, liberation.
Ça nous enferme pas.
It doesn't
Ça nous rend très
put us in
épanouis.
prison. It frees us.
Et ça
And
vient
this
graduellement dans le cœur.
comes gradually in the heart.
Et cette spiritualité,
And this
c'est ça dont les
spirituality,
gens ont besoin.
this is what people need.
Les gens sont fatigués
People are tired
de cette spiritualité
of this spirituality
finalement exclusive.
that
Qui
is
en fait penser
too
aux
much
autres
exclusive,
qu'on est les seuls.
where we make people feel that we are the only
Chacun a le droit de
qualified
penser.
ones. Everyone has the right to think.
On doit respecter la croyance.
We must respect the belief of every individual.
C'est une base, je pense.
It is a
C'est une
base,
bonne base
I
pour
think,
que les
that
gens
is
puissent évoluer.
a good foundation for people
Sans
to
ça,
evolve.
on vit tout seul.
Without this, we live alone.
Là, par exemple,
For example,
est,
we are
quelques-uns à avoir la même croyance.
just a
Et
few
d'autres,
here
alors, on
to have the
vivra
same
avec.
belief, and the others, they have different beliefs.
Donc, pour pouvoir vivre avec tout le monde,
So to live with everyone,
pour donner la conclusion,
in
on
conclusion,
doit être proche de l'âme.
we must be close to
Parce que
the
l'âme,
soul,
c'est universel.
because the soul is universal.
L'âme, c'est
The soul
l'identité de l'être vivant.
is the entity,
C'est sa réalité.
the reality of the living being.
Avoir plusieurs chemins.
So we can have different paths to realize
Une
this.
fois qu'on la réalise,
But when we realize the soul,
tout le monde peut le comprendre.
naturally everyone can
Les âmes
understand.
réalisées peuvent se comprendre.
Self-realized souls can understand this.
C'est pourquoi la croyance,
This is what the
c'est
belief divides.
là où il y a
It
pas la
divides.
question de l'âme,
It creates
il y a
divisions.
pas la compréhension de l'âme.
Where there is not the
On pense que
consciousness
ton
of
Dieu,
the
c'est
soul,
ton Dieu, c'est ton Dieu, moi je suis
we think your God is your God, my God is my God, I'm Muslim, I'm Buddhist, I'm Christian.
On voit même en Birmanie.
We can even see in Burma, there are Buddhists that kill Muslim people.
Les bouddhistes sont non-violents.
We can say Buddhists are non-violent, but no, it exists in every religion.
C'est pourquoi il faut
This is why
parler de l'âme.
we must speak about the soul.
C'est très important.
It's really important.
Merci.
Thank you very much.